I'm Jen, and Felicity is my American Girl doll of choice. Quick reminder here at the top that this is an inclusive space, and that means that Black Lives Matter. If there's anything that we can do to make our content more accessible or inclusive, please let us know in the comments below, or you can send me an email. It is indeed that time of year again. Time to make a TBR list. So I wrote a fake obituary for myself last year when I was working on the Monster Mag, and I decided that I would get crushed by my perpetually massive TBR list, which most writers and readers can probably relate to. But let's go back a few years to when I started thinking about my book collection a little bit more realistically. I learned more about the KonMari organization method, which I was mostly on board with until I got to the book section. I love collecting books, both physical and digital, so I had a huge resistance to getting rid of any of them. So in the movie About Time, Bill Nye's character uses his time travel powers to sit at home in his library and read more. I mean, he uses it for other stuff too, but go watch About Time. Believe it or not, I do not have the power of time travel, but if I did, I would probably mostly use it for the same thing. Instead of figuring out how to get time travel, I started re-examining the time that I do have and decided to use it more wisely. A little bit of quick math made it clear that my collection outstripped any possible reading habits a long time ago. In last year's video on this topic, which we will link below in the description, I already talked about how my TBR has been changing in the last couple of years, but in summation, I used to try and read 52 books a year. One time I made it to 30, then I had twins, and a global pandemic hit. So now I aim for 25, and actually last year in 2020, I succeeded. You can see last week's Digs and Ditches video for more on what I read. So I'm hoping to repeat the success that I had in 2020 with a few minor tweaks. The last time I moved, in 2017, I cleaned out my book collection massively. Moving is a wonderful motivator for getting rid of stuff, because I didn't want to have to move that entire collection. This was also the first time since before college, pretty much, that all of my books were going to be in one location, which brought into sharp relief both the size of the collection and revealed how many duplicates I had accidentally collected over the years. I mean, there's accidentally, and then there's very much on purpose. Oops. Once I settled into the new house, however, I began adding more books again, and the collection ballooned. So last year, I banned myself from buying new books. 2020 being what it was, of course, I lifted the ban with a few caveats. I decided that books I bought had to be from marginalized voices, and they had to be purchased through Black or queer-owned bookstores. I started using bookshop.com, which I now have an affiliate page on, and stuck to my rules almost perfectly throughout the year. One or two books by white authors squeaked by. Midnight Sun was released last year, but they were still purchased through stores like Semicolon and Uncle Bobby's. Diversifying my bookshelf has made getting rid of books much easier. When cleaning out my office most recently to turn it into another bedroom, I filtered out almost 50 books. And if the book was written by a straight white guy, it had to fight for its right to remain. If the book was not own voices, or if the protagonist was a straight white male, it was on thin ice. However, if the book checked off one or more of the Read Harder challenges, I slid it back on the shelf, at least for now. After spending an embarrassing amount of time putting together a searchable version of the entire Read Harder Book Riot challenge archive, I decided to use it a little counterintuitively. I'm not using the list to guide my book selections anymore, as that leads to using it as a shopping list, but instead I pick a book off the shelf, and then I look down the list to see how many categories it matches. I realized that I've been using the lists to punish myself, rather than the intended purpose of inspiring you to think a little harder, hence the name of the challenge, about the books that you're choosing in the first place. So I organized the challenges into categories and then copied them out onto construction paper, and I cross-checked and color-coded that, and something like 5 hours later, as a conservative estimate, I had this. Yeah, I don't have a good excuse for this. I'm not going to give you a tour. It's really very esoteric and very much done out of my own weird obsession with checking things off lists. One thing that this weird amalgamation map thing has allowed me to do is use books for more than one challenge item. Seeing how many challenges I'm up against if I ever want to feel the satisfaction of like checking everything off of these lists and knowing how much I can reasonably read in one year, I stopped being a super weird stickler in my brain, and that is technically allowed in the original rules of the challenge anyway. So this year I'm sticking with a list of 25 books, and when putting together my list, I undershot a little bit. I added 20 books to my 2021 TBR list. knowing that I'll likely get through an extra 3 or 4 books with the kids, and also that Bookstagram is very good at marketing books towards, readers. I was going to go over the 20 books that I added to my list. I was going to go over the 20 books that I've added to my list so far at the end of this video. However, I know it'll shift and change as the year unfolds, and I'm filming this before Christmas, where I asked for, 90% of my list was books. I will tell you that my TBR list is a little more diverse than years past, and I do try to swap between fiction and nonfiction as I'm working down the books that I should take off my shelves. So instead, this week on Advice Jen Can Dish Out But She Can't Take, you don't need to plan out your entire year of TBR at once. You don't have to. You can just read random books as the year unfolds. Also, whatever format you're reading in counts. Audiobooks, comic books, and graphic novels definitely count. A book that's in the YA section or middle grade, dude, that counts. If you decide you want to reread Twilight for the 87th time, you should do that. Have you read Midnight Sun yet? Because if you haven't, you should. Also, read Dracula. You need to borrow a copy. I don't know who has them all. I don't know where they are. What are you guys planning to read this year? As always, if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, push that subscribe button. You can also ring the bell, and you can get notified every time there's a new video on the channel. If you want even more content, like sneak peek novel scraps and semi-weekly roundups of my full writing schedule, you can become a patron. My Patreon and the rest of my social media pages are linked in the description below. Happy New Year! Stay safe and stay healthy.
Are you always this articulate?
Hercules, my